What is behavioral learning theory? Behavioral learning theory, also known as behaviorism, is a psychological theory that emphasizes the role of observable behavior in the learning process. This theory originated in the early 20th century and was heavily influenced by the work of Ivan Pavlov, John B. Watson, and B. F. Skinner. Behavioral learning theory is based on the premise that all behavior is learned through interactions with the environment, and that behavior can be modified or changed through reinforcement or punishment. One of the key tenets of behavioral learning theory is that behavior is shaped by its consequences. According to this theory, behavior that is followed by a positive consequence, that is, reinforcement, is more likely to be repeated in the future, while behavior that is followed by a negative consequence, that is, punishment, is less likely to be repeated. For example, if a child receives praise for completing a task, they are more likely to repeat the behavior in the future. On the other hand, if a child is scolded for misbehaving, they are less likely to engage in that behavior again. Another key component of behavioral learning theory is the concept of stimulus-response associations. This theory suggests that behavior is a direct response to environmental stimuli. For example, if a person hears a loud noise, they may jump or become startled. The behavior of jumping or becoming startled is the response to the stimulus of the loud noise. Behavioral learning theory also includes the concept of classical conditioning. Classical conditioning is a process by which an individual learns to associate a previously neutral stimulus with a meaningful stimulus. For example, Pavlov's famous experiment with dogs demonstrated that dogs could be conditioned to salivate at the sound of a bell if the sound of the bell was repeatedly paired with the presentation of food. In this case, the sound of the bell became a conditioned stimulus that elicited a conditioned response, that is, by salivation. Operant conditioning is another aspect of behavioral learning theory. Operant conditioning is a process by which an individual learns to associate their own behavior with consequences. This can be done through positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, punishment, or extinction. Positive reinforcement involves rewarding a behavior with a positive consequence, such as praise or a treat. Negative reinforcement involves removing a negative consequence when a behavior is performed, such as turning off an alarm clock when the individual gets out of bed. Punishment involves applying a negative consequence to a behavior, such as a timeout or a spanking. Extinction involves removing a reinforcement that was previously associated with a behavior, which causes the behavior to gradually decrease in frequency. Behavioral learning theory has been applied in many different areas, including education, therapy, and behavior modification. In education, behavioral learning theory has been used to develop effective teaching strategies, such as using positive reinforcement to encourage students to participate in class. In therapy, behavioral learning theory has been used to treat a wide range of psychological disorders, including anxiety, phobias, and addiction. In behavior modification, behavioral learning theory has been used to change problematic behaviors, such as smoking or overeating. While behavioral learning theory has been influential in the field of psychology, it has also been criticized for its narrow focus on observable behavior and its lack of attention to internal mental processes, such as thoughts and emotions. Critics of the theory argue that behaviorism oversimplifies the learning process by reducing it to a series of stimulus-response associations, and that it fails to take into account the complexity of human behavior.